Hello, Tara. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. Very well. Thank you. Very well indeed. Just wanted to start by saying thank you. I know you're very kind of in demand. You're here, there, and everywhere, and we'll touch on
Yeah.
more on that very shortly. But yeah, I just want to say thank you. I know we've worked together the last 6 months. All I want to do today is to kind of ask you a couple of questions, run through your experience of working with us over the last 6 months, and utilize this as an opportunity to potentially help somebody else that can relate to your story and maybe see themselves in the struggles that you had. So, if it's okay with you, we'll just love to kind of start by asking if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and what it is you do.
So my name's Tara Mackins. I am founder and director of Tailored Leisure, which is a non-for-profit company that supports people to have access to people with disabilities to have access to fitness, well-being, and leisure and short break services. I guess my background has been health and social care for a long time in making changes to that for people. Um, for other people within NHS and various other places. But I guess during COVID, I decided to put my money where my mouth was and use some of those skills and set up my own business to do it. I am a young mum of two with cerebral palsy, so I guess I've got a unique insight to what it's like to face some of those barriers as well. So life is busy and full. So so yeah, that's I guess a little bit about me in a whistle stop. And I'm always a
Amazing.
bit of a smiler no matter what else is going on too.
Yes, I can vouch for that. Every call, you're smiling in despite of
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for being very transparent. Again, I know it's a kind of it's something that you've done over the last 6 months. You've always kind of been vulnerable, being honest, being very transparent, and of course, it's allowed me to better help you as well. So you and I started working together 6 months ago now, Tara. So I would love it if you could kind of explain to myself and the people that will be watching this what your kind of life was like before we started working together.
Um, I think it was busy. I think I was doing. I think I was definitely looking back now. I just was. I want to call myself a bit of a hamster because that's how I felt. I felt I was on this hamster wheel of doing, going, not really appreciating maybe what I had in life, maybe not really allowing myself to celebrate some of the successes that I'd had. I think I felt really lost personally. I think I kind of we talked about that smile, but I genuinely can't ever say that I was really, really happy that like there was always something that I found fault with, but usually really critically at myself all of the time. And I would just hit this cycle of like keep going and keep going and keep going. And then pardon the pun, but the wheels would literally come off. And I remember it being 2 a.m. and I found you on Instagram and just thought, okay, I'd had lots of therapy, I'd had lots of counseling, but nothing ever really it wasn't therapy that I needed. It was kind of to get a grasp of the things in my life that I was that I needed to sort out really. That I just wanted rid of this feeling of kind of all the things that were great, but never really celebrating or appreciating those things and never really being able to move out of the things that I really wanted to do with my life. I felt really, really stuck is the best way that I can describe it.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember the call quite vividly. I was actually in South Africa, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you were quite apprehensive, and understandably so. You'd not kind of embarked on this type of intervention before. And yeah, I remember we figured out a way to make it possible. And yeah, the rest is history, I suppose. I'm curious to know, of course, you just mentioned then you were feeling kind of lost, although you were kind of smiling, you weren't, smiling on the inside. You weren't, like you said, relatively kind of happy. So what would you say was the actual biggest problem you were facing in both your business and your personal life at that time?
I think business wise, I was stuck in the rat race of working a full-time job and still working the business for 4 years. I felt, stuck, like I was given 60-40, you know, all of the time, 60 to my paid job because I never felt like I could get out of it, and 40 to the business. So I always felt stuck and that I was always going to be that way. Um, I think personally, I just felt like I was stuck on this self-destruct, place of things that I just, things that I valued and I wanted, but I couldn't see a way of getting there. I was very much a noddy people pleaser. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that, no problem. And I think people underestimate the knock-on impact that that has shown on your actual life and business life, because that's how, that is you, that is kind of you as a person. It is what, that nice person, and what makes me Tara isn't something that you have to lose, but the constant, like, yes, I'll do that, but actually inside thinking, God, why am I doing that? And how much more can I actually take on? You're not actually, for me, you're just in that cycle. But I think it has a knock-on effect, you know, from that personal stuff to how you deal with things as a leader, as an effective business owner, because you can't get out of that cycle without looking at some of those stuff. And if you think you can, then good luck. Because we can't without looking at some of that other stuff. And it is uncomfortable and
Mhm.
it is difficult to do. And there are patterns of behavior that I have been on for 20 years. It is difficult to do. But today here I am 6 months on, having been brave enough to leave my other job and
Yes, you
successfully
have.
run my business. And yeah, so that's probably it in a roundabout way of answering that question.
No, that's really helpful. And I think, and I appreciate again you sharing that because that was kind of your way of self-sabotaging. And it is a process, right? It's not a case of we just click our fingers and stop people pleasing. But oftentimes when we are people pleasing, it is a form of self-sabotage because we'll say yes to somebody when truly we want to say no. But simultaneously, when we're saying yes to them, we're saying no to a part of ourselves or no to something else, which is important just as equally. So I appreciate you opening up, yeah, and kind of being transparent with regards to that people pleaser side of things. I'm curious to know just why we are on you mentioned the self-destruction, you mentioned that kind of people pleaser. Were there any other ways in which you were self-sabotaging?
I think I was holding on to lots of past things. I wouldn't forgive myself for things that have happened that have been out of my control. I think I didn't value myself enough, and I didn't value the successes that I was having either. So I would often finish a task and go, "Oh, great, what now?" And never allow myself to really look at how far I've come or the business has come in the time that we've been operating. And I think that was a huge part of that for me. And not really understanding what was underneath that and why I wasn't.
Mhm. Yeah. And let's you just shared then you kind of struggled to celebrate your successes. One thing you just mentioned then, which we kind of just brushed past, was that you quit your full-time job and went all in on the business. So what had to kind of change for you in order for you to actually do that? What was your biggest takeaway from doing that?
Um, I had to value myself and understand that obviously I didn't take it lightly. I'm a single mum of two. It wasn't an easy decision. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever done.
Mm,
But equally recognizing that actually I was 60-40, and if I was going to be 100 in on the business, that I owed that to myself and my team, and that actually, you know, yes, it was scary, but what was the worst thing that was going to happen? So for me, that was a huge um learning curve, and just assessing financially where I was, and I think investing in myself, which is why I invested in the program. I think we can value our families, we can value our friends, we can value our business and everything we have, but how much can we honestly say we value ourselves? We spend tons of money, well, I do, on wine on a Friday,
Mhm.
or whatever you might be, or extras in the food shopping. But would we think twice about spending money on ourselves to be able to better ourselves and develop ourselves? I think it's probably the bottom of the pile. Um, we can all sign up with maybe a gym membership and go once and then think, oh, okay, I'll
Mhm.
still keep paying that £30 a month or whatever, because I'm gonna I maybe might go twice this month.
Yeah.
Um, you know, for me it was the same type of value and investment in myself, which I hadn't done before. And I think as soon as I reassessed that, um, I was able to take the leap of and weigh up why I was remaining where I was remaining, um, and what the pros and the cons were, and what that looked like, and have a bit of a plan. Yes, I took the leap quite early, and I was probably braver or stupider than I should have been. But um, through those conversations and through realizing some of those self-sabotage patterns that I was doing, it was the one thing that I probably had to let go the most to be the biggest success in myself.
Mhm.
Because it was the biggest weight, I think.
Yeah.
So it's about assessing what is weighing you, and what can you really get rid of, and what is the worst that can happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see that quite often, you've been in the program long enough now, but you see when people are kind of half in a job and half in their own business, like you've mentioned, you were 60/40, you're never 100% in either. So the way I kind of like to frame it is you're doing both people a disservice. I remember when I quit my job, I remember I sat down with my manager, the director, and he's lovely. I've got a great relationship. I sat down with him and I said, listen, when I'm in here, my mind is thinking about coaching. And when I'm coaching, when I'm in my own business, I'm thinking about other things as well that I have to do within this job. So I was never kind of, all in on either of them. It was kind of, dipping my toe in here, dipping my toe in there. And I do think one of the biggest things that we can do, again, when the time is right, this isn't me telling everybody to quit their job and go all in, but that's probably one of the best things that we can do. We can, eliminate something that takes a lot of our time, effort, and energy up and cognitive function, and then allow us to utilize all of that time, effort, energy, and cognitive function on the thing that's going to actually move us forward. And yes, you did do it very quickly, to my surprise. I mean, pleasantly surprised. But yeah, you took the leap, and you mentioned then, um, I think for me, it's about having a sense of courage, because you're right, it could have gone completely wrong. But you have to have that courage and that belief that, okay, well, it might go wrong. What's the worst that can happen? But I'm going to give it a bloody go. No, I'm going to give it a bloody good go. I'm going to try. That's what I'm going to do. And you did, and now we're here reaping the rewards. Absolutely. So thank you for that. And speaking of rewards, I seen on our wins channel the other day, you've been securing more and more contracts, another £20,000 contract. So yeah, congratulations. You are absolutely crushing it.
Yeah, thank you. It's as a non-for-profit, it is what it says on the tin, but I think having that focus, Sean's just really allowed us to evaluate what our service delivery is, and value what we have to offer in terms of specialist provision for adults with disabilities, and now children, which
Mhm.
is what the contract is for us to offer summer camps to children with disabilities, which is just huge, and a huge gap. And something that some people are scared of, because they're scared of the unknown, and scared of how they best support those adults or young people. Well, actually, it's about putting those people with lived experience in place, and really believing in your model. So yeah, kind of, and I think ultimately that trust and honesty is what sells to contractors and commissioners, and and knowing that you can deliver and you deliver effectively and you do it a good job, but also you do it with passion because it's something that you know and love. So yeah, it's been great to finally be somewhere where I can take a salary from something that that I've worked so hard for probably and not done
Yeah.
for such a long time. So
Yeah,
and really do
absolutely.
what I've wanted to do for a very long time in terms of a career and a business.
Yeah. And I can see just from speaking with you now and speaking with you for the last 6 months, how important this is to you. And I think it is important what you've just shared as well, being able to take a wage. I remember when we first started speaking, and I won't go into too much detail because people don't need to know, but you were sharing with me, where you were in the with the business, and also that you'd not been kind of taking care of yourself. And now you've absolutely worked your butt off and, put the wheels in motion, pardon the pun, put everything in
Yeah,
motion to get yourself where you need to get to. And, you know, you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and be proud of yourself because this wouldn't have happened without you taking imperfect action every day, every week, and every month. So, yeah, I hope you're often celebrating these successes along the way. So,
yeah, I think it's really important. I think if I can give anybody any advice, it is really important to just be grateful for what you have and just invest in yourself just a little bit. We can all run the hamster wheel and keep smiling, but how much are we actually in a smile? Or not, I felt like a bit of an imposter. And to actually smile and mean it, although feel really uncomfortable when you so used to, I guess, faking it until you make it or whatever they want to call it,
mhm,
behind the scenes. It's nice to not have that weighted feeling within you, um, that you're not good enough to achieve those things.
yeah.
And on that cycle of self-sabotage, really. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm very mindful of your time. So I've got one or two questions that I kind of would love to go through. And my other question is in terms of the program, in terms of yourself, of course, you've been through the whole entire program now, been working with us for 6 months. What would you say has been your biggest achievements that you've been able to take away from the program?
Um, I think learning what I truly value,
Hmm.
learning perhaps why I didn't,
Hmm.
what those values are, what I really want for my future and my children's, as opposed to the people pleasing that I might have done before. Um, I think some really difficult conversations. I think there's parts of the program that talk about really challenging those things that you want to say in the right way. Um, is refreshing because it goes back to that model of what is the worst thing that can happen if you don't do that people please and you have that conversation. Um, I think for me, the key point of the program was probably some things that I've hung on to in my past in the forgiveness model, particularly. I think it is about, you know, letting those things go in your own time and realizing that there is no pressure from anybody but yourself to do that.
Hmm.
But actually, when you do that, it can lift lots of weight that you perhaps carrying without realizing and re-entering the cycle. So it's about, for me, the importance of journaling, the importance of really, looking at how you feel and why you feel like that, the matrix model, not taking on huge goals, and looking at bite-sized pieces every week and
Hmm.
what that looks like, then that actually you can still get where you want to be, but sometimes things feel really overwhelming when they're really big.
Yeah.
But all we're visioning is that end thing, and we're never going to get there because it feels so big.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so there's been loads of the program that I've valued and taken away, and the support from the program. So, there's other people in the program that are on the same journey as you. I've met people that I will remain in contact with, both in business and just because they're nice people. You included, John,
Thank you.
after the program. So yeah, so just I think just there's lots to take away from it, but I think mainly it's about that investment in yourself and valuing, you know, what that looks like and celebrating
Mhm.
how great you actually are. And I think as British people, we don't we don't do that very well,
No.
because it's seen as we call it blowing smoke up your bum in the north. Um, but and then that feels pretty good to take some time out, and also it gives you time, both business and personally, once you've celebrated those successes. What now and where do you want to be? Whereas without celebrating them, really, you can't really assess where you might want to be.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And you've been an absolute pleasure to work with. And it sounds like, just from speaking with you today, it kind of reminds me of all of the things that you've been able to accomplish because 6 months is a long time. And in that time, you've mentioned that people pleasing has lessened. You've mentioned you've quit your job. You've managed to secure really high profile contracts. You've managed to start paying yourself somewhat of a wage. Finally,
Yeah.
you've been able to kind of work through some things that you've kept tightly hold that have been, potentially harming you instead of helping you, and really kind of know and understands the value that you do provide to not only your business, but to yourself as well. I'm going to ask a different question. Is there you mentioned then, of course, the community, you've mentioned the group, of course, there's the online portal. There's so many different avenues of the program. Do you have a favorite part, like a favorite avenue of support? I know you've spoke highly of BB in the past as well, which for those of you that don't know is our client success coach. But yeah, I'm curious, Tara, do you have a favorite part?
Um, Phoebe's been a huge support, particularly around some personal issues that I've gone through that I said before have an impact on whatever else, however else you think they don't have an impact, they do have an impact in you being able to move forward. So I think definitely, I think I underestimated the portal
Mhm.
when I first came on the program. So being having been in the program and visited the portal and then revisited it, time and time while I've been in there, just to kind of give you time to reflect on that and go through things again. But I absolutely love our weekly one-to-one coaching sessions as a group. But just the ongoing support really that is just there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, from yourselves, from you Sean, in particular, and BB. There's not a question that you haven't been able to answer. There's not a bit of the program where you haven't reached out and supported me if it hasn't made sense, or I've had a particular difficult time with processing that and dealing with it, and the potential to slip back into self-sabotage. So I can't really thank you enough in terms of where I am now in comparison to where I was, really. And I've said that before, but I'll keep saying it.
No, you
Um
have.
yeah.
No, I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And as coaches, of course, I'm biased. It's my program, but this is what truly matters. Having these conversations with people that have gone through the transformation, gone through the journey, and have come out the other side saying, yeah, what you've provided and the support you've been able to give me has been helpful and has allowed me to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So, yeah, this is a real honor for me to be able to do this. And I just want to say thank you for investing in yourself, not just financially, but, with the efforts and your attention and the time it requires to do this work. Because I say to people all of the time, Tara, like what we do and the program itself, it works, but it doesn't work unless you do the work. And you've been a great example of someone who has actually done the work. So, yeah. So much so that you've now made the decision to continue with us for another 6 months. So that speaks volumes. So thank you for that. My only other question that I have, and I'll just ask this question lastly. Given that you have invested in yourself 6 months ago and have decided, to reinvest into the program and yourself, what advice would you give to anybody else that are perhaps thinking of investing into the program and getting our support? Maybe they're on the fence, they're thinking about it, they want to do it, but they're a bit kind of apprehensive. what advice would you have to them?
I think, as I've said before, invest in yourself. You know, we spend so much time investing in other people and buying things that maybe we don't need or didn't need to buy from the supermarket that day. That actually the investment in yourself longer term is far better and it pays off. Absolutely. I've never invested in a program like this, and I'll be honest, I never had any desire. It was like, yeah, really, like, can this really help? Can this really change things? This is just, another person talking to another person, and how is this gonna, but just take the time to think about where you want to be, and if you're feeling stuck, or if you're feeling, that you are slipping back into that hamster wheel pattern, that you can break out of it. You've just got to make a choice on whether or not you value yourself enough. And I think that's really, really important. And actually, like I said before, it can feel really uncomfortable and really alien when all you've ever done is value others above yourself. And I know that sounds really, really selfish, but actually, that's okay. It is okay to value yourself just as much as the people that you have around you, because in reality, you can't be the best version of yourself unless you value yourself enough. And that's probably been my biggest lesson, really. You can continue to nod, and when inside you want to die and not really do it. But yeah, yeah, you've got to really just take the leap. Is my advice in one word, in a roundabout way of saying it. But yeah, just believe in yourself, and what is the worst that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to put the work in.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you added that in, because, one thing I say, and I probably said it to you, is I'm good, but I'm not a magician. I can't do the work for you.
Yeah,
What I think it was last week or the week before when we spoke, and you mentioned, and I wish I could record that moment, because I remember you shared something with me and it got me really emotional. You said it's the best investment I've ever made. And hearing anybody say that about anything that you've created, I'm sure if you have clients that say, wow, this was the best thing I've done all week, or this was the best thing I did, and it was a service that you put on, like, it really hits home. It hits you right here.
yeah,
um
yeah. And
so
it is. It still is. It's definitely the best thing that I've ever done. I've done lots of therapy, lots of different types. Been in and out of. I don't mind disclosing that. Been in and out of mental health therapy services for as long as I can remember, and came out and just went, great. Well, that's still there. Where you know, whereas I really feel as if this looked at my whole everything. And it is the best investment that I did make, because I wanted to change it. But you do have to go through the program, go through the portal, get uncomfortable, get upset, journal, which I hated, by the way, in the beginning. Um, but I seem to do it every day, in my voice notes. When something gets on my nerves or gets under my skin, or whatever. Um, but there's no point in keeping it in. You've got to get it out to be able to move on. So yeah, so it's been a massive, 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 amazing thing. And I'm generally not just saying that because we're here, but at 2 a.m. 6 months ago, I never would have thought I was able to deal with some of the things that I've dealt with in the program with the right support. Yeah.
thank you, Tara.
Yeah.
um There's nothing else for me to say apart from thank you. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm very, very excited to see what the next 6 months look like. So thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. And you have a lovely afternoon, and I will speak to you soon. Thanks again.
Yeah. You
Bye.
too. Thanks, Sean.